Today I'm taking you along to my most favorite place in the Himalayas, Kedarnath. This is a 15-kilometer trek and the footages are from a few years which I have shot. We'll be visiting a few significant places along the way. I'll be telling you lots of things which are not known about Kedarnath temple. So put your trek shoes on and let's go. Namaskaram. The Chardhams, Gangotri, Yamunotri, Badrinath and Kedarnath, this pilgrimage circuit is said to have started by Adishankaracharya in the 8th century. Out of the four, two were Shakti Sthalas, Ganga for goddess Ganga and Yamuna, one for Vishnu, Badrinath, and Kedarnath for Shiva. Kedarnath is also one of the 12 Jyotirlingas and this is the highest Jyotirlinga. There are 5 Kedars and there is an interesting story attached to this. This is a 14-15 kilometer trek. The trek is also going to be long and the video is also going to be long. I'll tell you the story as we go along. We trek on the left side of the Mandakini river which is flowing down. Whenever I trek, I usually prefer to start by 5:30-6:30 am because one thing is the weather in the Himalayas changes drastically after 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it could start raining. Always it's better to start early. And another reason is I love the scenic beauty, especially in this Kedarnath trek, and I stop along the way enjoying, drinking in, soaking in the nature and the mountain. If I start by 5:36, usually by evening 5 or 6 is when I reach. It shouldn't take 12 hours. People do it in 6 hours or 7 hours max. This is the space of Mahadeva, the Lord of the Lords. It is said that this space is in tune with the sound Shiva Shambho. Even today you can see when people trek up, they keep chanting Shambho or Shiva Shambho as they climb. Before the 2013 floods, we used to trek from Gaurikund. After the floods, the cars are stopped at Sonprayag, which is 5 kilometers before Gaurikund. From Sonprayag to Gaurikund, there are private vehicles which take you to Gaurikund, and from there the trek starts. During the research for the Sadhguru Sri Brahma series, we came across few accounts of people in the 1900s. I think the book was from 1901 or 1903, this account of a group of people who trekked up to Kedar. They are describing this was a very arduous trek in terms of weather, the climatic condition that prevailed, and also the threat from wild animals, and a very challenging trek through the forest. Even today I would say it is still the same, just that no animals, no wild animals, but in terms of the weather conditions and the toughness of the trek, it's still the same. Within 3 kilometers of trekking, we arrive at a Bhairavnath shrine, which sort of sits like the entry guardian for Kedar Baba. It is a very small shrine which could very easily be missed when you are trekking up. This is a very powerful shrine. This is also said to be a powerful occult place. On the 7th kilometer, there is a place called Rambhada. This used to be a small town kind of place where all these hotels and mules used to be parked. During the 2013 floods, this whole Rambhada was washed away. So now as you trek at Rambhada, you have to cross a bridge. The bridge has been constructed where you cross over the Mandakini and the trek continues on the right side of the river till Kedarnath. The views that this trek offers is just beyond any words and description. always trek, but in the last few times I had taken a chopper because I was carrying camera and equipments, and also I had very less number of days for the trip. The private choppers start from either Agastya Muni town or from Guptakashi. These private choppers have all been now brought under the government booking online site, and people who are interested should be booking it beforehand because it's very much in demand. And the cost varies from 3,500 to 7,000 one way. The smaller rivers of Dudganga, Madhuganga, Swargadwari and Saraswati all combine to form the Mandakini river. New ghats have been constructed now at the confluence of these rivers where the Mandakini starts. The source of all these rivers is the Chorabari glacier. This is the glacier which after cloudburst flowed into Kanti Sarovar, a small lake which caused the flash floods. Before 2013 floods, there were 4 small kunds named Reta, Udak, Rudra and Rishi, which have now disappeared. 2 of them are being renovated now. The temple is built using grey stone blocks which stands out from the surrounding black mountains. This style of architecture is called Rekha Shikara style, and it is a north-south orientation as opposed to usually being oriented in east-west direction. This is also one of the features which protected the temple during the 2013 floods. Probably the flow of flood water and boulders was thought of even when it was built. There is a huge Nandi outside the temple, and once we enter the temple, one can see life-size statues of the Pandavas and Draupadi, Krishna, and just outside the sanctum 2 Veerabhadras guarding the entrance, and along the inside pathway a deity of Parvati Devi. The linga is a Swayambhu, an outcrop of the rock which is triangular in shape. Everyone is allowed into the sanctum and permitted to do their own puja and offerings. This is during certain times in the day. And during other times, the Ravals, the priests from Karnataka, who belong to Veerashaiva tradition, perform the pujas. The 5 main priests take care of the Kedarnath in rotation, along with Guptakashi, Ukkimat and a few other temples. Let me go into a little bit of what this space, especially the Kedar Valley, holds in terms of the kind of people who live here or who flock to this place. The people who come here from various paths and different kind of aspirations. The sadhus and babas whom I have encountered in this many years cannot be put in a single category. They are of various kinds. Initially, I used to be confused between somebody who wears a sadhu's garb and a real sadhu. After a few years, I started to be able to distinguish between a real sadhu and a fake one. Then you start noticing that each one has his own path and method, and they emanate a totally different vibe altogether. There are intense ones whom you cannot see eye to eye, and even if you approach them, there is a certain kind of intensity which could scare people away. And there are these compassionate ones who are all smiles, and they accommodate you, they invite you, offer you tea, biscuits, and even food when you are visiting one of their shacks. That's the area we are entering into, where our understanding and logic and reasoning has to be kept aside. There will be a separate video on a certain Nath Baba, whom I have known for a few years, almost 7 years now. 5 years it took me for convincing him to agree for an interview. He shared about his life, his sadhana. 2013 is when the floods happened, the cloud burst which happened somewhere behind over there, and it came down, and you'll see the beam full which stopped the floods from damaging the temple. The temple complex, the surrounding areas and Kedarnath town suffered extensive damage, but the temple structure did not. A large rock among the debris acted as a barrier protecting the temple from the flood. The surrounding premises and other buildings in the market area were totally washed away or heavily damaged. This rock, which stood just behind the temple, protected the temple, and this rock is now celebrated and worshipped by devotees as Bhimshila. Adishankaracharya established the Puja Vidhanam, or the method of how the puja should be done here, and in all the Chardhams he set up, and in Kedarnath also. And it is said that he finally took Samadhi behind Kedarnath. Earlier there was a small wall behind this temple with the hand of Danda symbolizing Adishankaracharya. Now a full-fledged statue has been established a little further behind the temple. This is a much needed acknowledgement for a great being, for the kind of contribution that he has done in reviving the spiritual fabric of this land when it was very much needed. The story of how the Pancha Kedars, the 5 Kedars, came into existence. It is said that the Pandavas, after the Kurukshetra war, after they defeated the Kauravas, and they ruled for 35 years, and they decided to retire into the forest. They handed over their kingdom to the grandchildren, and they headed to the forest. They had decided that it's time for them to cleanse, to dissolve their karma, whatever they had committed in the past. So they went in search of Shiva, because Shiva, being the destroyer who destroys all your karma, offers you liberation or moksha. These people had committed very heinous crimes. They had committed Brahmana Hatya, in terms of killing Brahmins, Gotra Hatya, which means their own Kula, people of their own relatives they killed, and even their own guru they killed. So because of that, they had accumulated lots of karma, which they wanted to dissolve. Shiva did not want to give them an easy way out. So he evaded them, but they kept pursuing. Finally, when they reached the Kedar valley, Shiva took the form of a bull and disappeared amongst other cattle. Bhima identified Shiva, who was in the form of a bull, and went and caught him. Shiva plunged into the ground and split into 5 and appeared in 5 different places. The hump came up in Kedarnath, and the limb in Tunganath, the face in Rudranath, and the belly in Madmaheshwar, and hair in Kalpeshwar. It is said that the Pandavas established and built these 5 temples, spent time doing sadhana in all these places, and finally attained moksha in Swargarohini. The whole path that they travel can be traced from Delhi, which was Indraprastha, to Swargarohini, which is in Uttarakhand. It's -6 degrees and freezing at 7:30 in the morning. The term Kedara is recorded only from the 6th century. It's not found in Mahabharata, maybe it is referred to by a different name. The word Kedara means field and Nath means the Lord of the field where the crop of liberation grows, is how Kedar Kanda of Skanda Purana describes Kedarnath. In another legend, the Pancha yatra is part of Nath Sampradaya. So the Nathis travel to all these Pancha and culminate their yatra at Pashupatinath temple in Nepal. The emblem used in Kedarnath temple is the same as used in Pashupatinath temple. The exact time period when Kedarnath came into being is not known. In the 6th and 7th century South Indian Tamil Devaram songs, this has been sung. This is one of the 275 temples, the Shiva Kshetras, that has been sung by the Shaiva saints. The Shaiva saints Sambandar, Appar, Sundarar and Sekidar have sung about Kedaram. Kedarnath is one of those few temples which are open for 6 months in a year and they close for the remaining 6. The opening of Kedar is usually around Akshaya Tritiya, which falls in April-May, and closing is during just after Diwali on the eve of Bhai Dooj. The day of closing, Samadhi Pooja is conducted where the linga is covered with vibhuti and the doors are shut. A day or two before that, the Bhairavnath temple, which is a kilometer away from the main temple, that Bhairav is woken up or invoked from his slumber. It is said that Bhairav manages or protects the whole valley when Kedar Baba is in Samadhi. It's a very intense process and the next video will be an exclusive on this Bhairavnath and the process that is involved. Kedar Baba is taken down in a dolly to Ukhimat where puja is conducted for 6 months. And here, when the doors are shut, Devas are supposed to be doing puja for Kedar Baba. I can keep going on and on about this place. All that would be just words and information. What this place does to me can never be put in words. Of the many times I have been here, couple of times I did not even go inside the temple to have darshan. One reason was the crowd and another, I felt that the whole valley was throbbing with these energies that I felt bursting just being in the space outside. Sadhguru has mentioned how this energy space has seen additions and contributions from many great beings over millennia. Apart from being one of the Chardhams, many yogis and enlightened beings have left their energies here for people to make use of. I have witnessed an ever increasing crowd every year, and this year in 2022 the crowd that this place saw was totally unprecedented. Even the government had to stop the entry of people for a couple of days because it started raining. I hope the government takes measures in building the necessary infrastructure for people to stay and have food. Just a few rooms that are run by private people are definitely not sufficient. A sincere request to all those people who are going, please don't leave plastic or any trash there. This is going to be destructive for all these places. This is common basic sense, but I see that is lacking in people, the way they leave the place with all this trash that they carry. Make sure to stay tuned and watch the video where we witness the awakening of the sleeping Bhairavnath. I came up to the Bhairav Mandir and it started snowing. And do watch the other earlier videos in the Himalayan series. Most importantly, the 2 Devi temple videos on Dari Devi and Kalimat, which form an energy triangle along with Kedar temple.